All right, everybody. I do believe we are live. Welcome to another episode of the Break the Rules live stream. I am your host, Lev Polyakov, Lev Po on Twitter, and we are here today for a wonderful debate about President Joseph Biden's accomplishments. And we have, as always, Styx Hexenhammer 666. And we got Armand Domalewski, who has been on the stream before. Really cool dude. I may disagree about the imbiest tendencies of Armand, but I am very thankful for the fact that you are here today to have this debate. Now, just a little bit about yourself, Armand. You live in San Francisco. And what kind of things do you do, and how exactly did you get into this? And then we're going to go right into the debate. Don't forget to like, subscribe, patreon.com/break the rules. You know the whole spiel. Anyway, Armand, go for it, my friend.
Sure. I'm a data analyst in San Francisco. I work for a large tech company. I used to work in politics and policy, working on like housing policy as well as like local political campaigns and national ones. And so I got into this through that, and I also just tweet a lot. It's fun.
All right. And as far as the Biden's accomplishments go, I do want to start with you, Armand. We can talk about different things. One of these could be immigration. I mean, that's been a very, very big subject right now. So would you like to start off with that aspect of Biden's administration?
I mean, I wouldn't describe like immigration policy as like one of Biden's big accomplishments. I think Biden has done a lot given the constraints he has to make things better. But obviously immigration has been like a really contentious and difficult issue. I'll start with the things I think he's done well. I think prior to Biden coming to office, there's a lot of, Trump administration's general philosophy was to try to shut things down as much as possible, but also without really understanding how the court system works. So there's a lot of procedures where like they attempted to do do Section 212F to shut down all immigration. And the courts are like, well, no, it doesn't work that way. It's a lot of halting starts and stops. And you saw, for example, like there were 5,000 families that were separated during that process that many of them never got reconnected. Their kids were like lost their parents, families that were totally disconnected, things like that. And I think
they were trafficked. They were trafficked or put in the Obama cages.
I mean, they were put in detention camps because that's what the law requires is the detention. Specifically, like that's part of the reason that like this border bill was such a contentious thing is because right now the law requires you to be detained if you come to the border, but we never had the funding level to do it. And so when they exceed capacity at the border, they end up releasing people. And also they were staying. The reason there's like not capacity is because they're staying in the cages for such a long time because like you either have to release them or you can detain, but then they need to get a hearing, but then you don't have judges, you don't have asylum officers. Like the system's not, built to process it. But to talk about like the positive things, I think there's been a lot of things on, for example, on like high skilled immigration visas, a lot of reforms on like rationalizing the way the H-1Bs work. It used to be previously done much more like, for example, a recent rule change that was happening around it is that it used to be really incentivized to dump a lot of like, basically, it's very hard to optimize them for the specific role. And so you saw them gained by like large staffing companies that would just like pour in a ton of people with not necessarily that it's need. They've done reforms to change that and to rationalize it and to prioritize those based on like the highest level of skill need. I think they've also significantly improved like the refugee process. So like the best way to handle asylum or refugee claims is to have people come in through like a legal and vetted process. And through things like temporary parole status, for example, it's like a huge surge of Venezuelan immigrants coming because the economy is falling apart. By giving that status, it reduced the flow of people who were coming in chaotically across the border. So I think like within the legal limits of what Biden has been able to do, he has like rationalized and reduced the chaos as much as possible. But the fundamental problem is that there are like we've outdated laws that are not built to address like modern immigration issues.
Can I counter that? I would say
Sure.
that Joe Biden, if he were smart, he would simply have kept up with the Trump era laws and built more wall and put more staff on the border, and we wouldn't have the current crisis that we have. We've got a record number of people pouring across. They're being processed in the United States and then let go of, as opposed to remain in Mexico. That policy was abolished effectively. And so the problem really is, I don't have a problem with asylum seekers. Somebody comes over from Cuba, wet foot, dry foot. Somebody comes from a commie country. They come into the nation, and they legitimately they want to get away from socialism, which everyone in their right mind would want to do. I have no problem with them whatsoever. The problem is that a person can simply toss their passport into the Rio Grande, say, hey, I'm from Venezuela or some other place that a safe third country wouldn't apply to, and they can simply wander across the border. Now, once they're across, because there are so many people coming in, it's impossible to process them all. So what do? They detain a handful of these people. The rest are let go of. We had a report last year, and I don't know if you saw it. Up to a third of all of the unaccompanied minors coming across the border who are released to a guardian, they can't make contact with the so-called guardian within the United States. These people are being trafficked. It's not give us your huddled masses, you're tired and poor. It's basically, hey, give us your kids and we're going to Moloch them, basically. They're being trafficked at the moment. They're in sweatshops or they're being prostituted or something like that. And I think it's sick. I don't think that it's merciful or kind. And I think that Biden has completely failed on the issue. And by the way, a supermajority of Americans feel the same.
Armand, do you agree with Styx as far as Biden should have kept the Trump policies?
Well, I think the mistake around that is that, like, for example, Remain Mexico, one, it was never really fully implemented because Mexico only agreed to like a specific type set of immigrants that would qualify for it. So they're like, if you come from these countries and meet these criteria, we'll do Remain in Mexico. But then they only, like, that program was already falling apart because it was exceeding Mexico's capacity. The pandemic then happened, which is like ultimately was shut down. A lot of people point to like, oh, immigration went down. It's like that is what caused like the big drop. And now they're trying to, as part of negotiation, potentially start Remain Mexico. But the issue is that Mexico has like pretty high conditions for it. Like Mexico doesn't want like to do Remain Mexico policy because it means that a ton of people stay there for a very long time. And so like their demands right now are provide 10 million, provide citizenship status or path to citizenship for 10 million documented immigrants. Restore end the Cuban embargo and the Venezuelan embargo, and like send Mexico and Latin America billions and billions of dollars, which like some of those things, like I think the Cuban embargo is stupid, we should remove it anyway. But those are things usually the people who support Remain in Mexico don't support those things. You can't just like force Mexico to do Remain in Mexico. As far as the like staffing stuff, like yeah, I totally agree. Like we need a lot more folks, especially like asylum officers and immigration judges, because like really the big problem is that we have these rules. Like the theoretical idea of this is supposed to be like a big war happens and a bunch of people come across and they get an asylum hearing and then a judge processes them and so on. But that's supposed to take months, but ends up happening years. And then you either have a situation where there's like these massive camps across the border that people stay in for a long time. Then even that gets overextended. Or you have people in the country. And the truth is that the majority of people do end up attending their asylum hearings for the simple fact that like they don't want to get deported and having.
Yeah, but under the latest bill, I guess the Secretary of State can arbitrarily decide that a person is eligible for asylum anyway. What I'm wondering is, how is this a Biden accomplishment? Because that's sort of the parameter of our debate is Biden's accomplishments, right? We're talking about the border at the moment. If you're saying that the whole situation is messy as hell, then how is that a Biden accomplishment? I just don't understand.
I think Lev.
Yeah, we can move on to other. We can move on to other points.
I think it's a. Given the parameters we have, he has stemmed the bleeding as much as he can. But I disagree
completely.
All right, we can move on. We can move on to other points later. We could go back to this one if there is time. So, reading over here from Armand, Joe Biden's top 5 accomplishments. Number 1, passage of the American Rescue Plan, which supercharged growth and led to record low unemployment. Armand, any comments on that? And then we're going to go to Styx.
Also, I graduated college around 2013, and I actually entered college in 2008 during the great financial crisis. And so I have like one of my strongest memories really that shaped the way I see the world in politics is the experience of like my family almost losing everything, horrible unemployment, years and years of grind. Like even by 2013, like getting a job took forever. I was like living in my car. It was awful, and unemployment stayed above like 9-10% for a very long time. It really took almost like a decade to recover. Then we had the pandemic, and I was terrified because like unemployment was like skyrocketing even more than what we saw during the great financial crisis. And all I could see was another 10 years of struggling to get jobs, struggling to get higher wages. But we learned the lessons from that. Both first, like under Trump with the CARES Act, and then like the American Rescue Plan, where we said last time we were so worried about spending too much money, but we didn't spend enough, and unemployment was in the toilet for a very long time. This time we understood that it was better to take the risk on the higher end, and we were able to restore, like, go back to the pre-pandemic growth trajectory way faster. And in fact, we are still far above our peers, like in the entire world. If you look at like unemployment rate, wage growth, like economic performance for the United States versus like the UK in particular, but Germany, Japan, like all our peer countries were like kicking their ass. And we've also seen is that this has particularly been helpful for like working class folks. And so like the fastest wage growth that's happened in real terms, like that's after you take into account inflation, for people at the bottom 25%. People who were screwed for a really long time, they're actually are, like more so than people like me who are like, I'm very fortunate, like I make a good tech income and all that, but like relatively speaking, those folks have been seeing like the biggest gains, and that's something I think is a huge accomplishment.
Styx.
I would definitely love to respond to that. First and foremost, yes, unemployment is low. It was already dropping like a rock when Trump left office. It had already dropped considerably, and he didn't need anything in particular to cause that to happen. That was because furloughed workers simply came back on the job. It was a temporary loss due to the stupidity of lockdownerism, which was largely state level, by the way. Biden has not done anything to move that trajectory whatsoever. He spent a lot of funny money. The problem is that a lot of the job creation we're seeing now is people taking out second jobs. And I'm thinking to myself, if I were like working class, before Bidenflation, okay, maybe I'm making ends meet. Now all of a sudden everything's twice as expensive. Well, shit, what do I have to do? You've got two choices. You can take out credit card debt, which a lot of people are, and there's a debt bubble that's actually looming because of Biden's inflationary policies, or you can get a second job, a side hustle, something part-time. I would note that a lot of the new job creation is part-time jobs. In fact, it's virtually all of it. That's number one. Number two, to say that the Biden's rescue plan actually helped anything is sort of like saying that the infrastructure plan did. We're talking about Biden's accomplishments. The problem is that when you look at accomplishments in a political sense, they can be either nonpartisan or partisan. So you would have something that the vast bulk of the majority of the population supports. That would be an objective accomplishment. Okay, so 70% of the public thinks it's a great thing. The problem with Biden's accomplishments, as you would label them, is that half of the public thinks that they're nuts. And so you may think of them as an accomplishment. Other Biden fans might think of them as accomplishments, whether you're a partisan Democrat, maybe you lean left politically or something like that. You think it's a great thing, but not understanding that there's the other side that thinks that they're terrible. And Trump had the same thing. Some of the things he accomplished, like when he put 3 justices on the Supreme Court. If you're a small R Republican, or you lean right or something like that, you consider that an accomplishment. I consider it neutral myself as a non-Republican, of course. If you are a Democrat in the partisan sense, or you're a liberal or whatever, you probably think it's a terrible thing. So it's not really an objective accomplishment at all. It's partisan. It means nothing. I would say with regards to the unemployment rate, yes, it's low. It was also very low under Donald Trump. You remember the quip that Obama had when he said, oh, Donald Trump is full of shit. He's not going to get unemployment down to 4%. He doesn't have an economic magic wand. And then he got it down below 4% for a couple of years, actually, under his presidency. Well, I mean, that's an accomplishment. And he didn't need to do that with people taking out second jobs or barely being able to make ends meet. I would say that Trump has many accomplishments. Biden has none. I can look back through even presidents that I hate, like George W., Obama, Herbert Walker, Clinton. We haven't had a winning streak in a long time, other than, I would say, Trump's first term of 2. I can look back and I can find some redeeming qualities to them, which are nonpartisan. Obama, he stood out of the way of an energy boom. He normalized relations with Cuba. I give him credit for those. George W., great diplomacy with Africa, forestalling what's happening now with China, trying to colonize the eastern side of that continent. On that, he was a masterstroke of genius. Herbert Walker was occasionally humorous, et cetera, et cetera. I can't find a single thing that Joe Biden has done, though, that would be conceived of as an accomplishment except in a partisan context. That is, you already tend to support liberal policies and or the Democratic Party, and so you label it to be an accomplishment.
Now, quick aside, from what I was reading, the annual weekly earnings for private sector employees in nominal dollars went from, in 2016, $878, 2020 it was $975, and 2024 it's $1,178. So as far as jobs like that, though, like what would you say is no more Trump's doing, and now it's already in Biden's court, as far as the kind of changes we've seen with the economy? So, Styx,
which one of us are you asking?
I'm asking you, Styx, and then I want to go to Armand.
I would say that nothing that's happening right now has anything to do with Donald Trump. He hasn't been in office in over 3 years, so.
Okay, so Armand, let me know what you think of what Styx said.
Sure. I mean, a couple of things. So first of all, when Trump left office, unemployment was 6.7%. And I think, what I do give Trump credit for is he did sign the CARES Act under his administration. And that is when unemployment started to fall. We had the stimulus checks go out. We had sort of very aggressive unemployment insurance that was larger than historically done. A lot of important investments done in the economy. And that's what, when unemployment, it wasn't just like a furloughing thing of people returning to work because of health stuff. It was also, we did basic macroeconomics of when there's low demand, when there's an economic shock, whether it's a financial crisis or in this case, a pandemic, it might be caused by an external force, but the way an economy can recover is by having the government inject more money back in. That is how we got out of the, that recession. That's why we stayed in the great financial crisis for so long, is because we didn't do it. And the comparison you can see, you say, okay, well, what had happened anyway is we do have a natural experiment because the United States did way more of this than Canada, Germany, Japan, the UK. And what we see is that we have the best economic performance of any of those countries. And
can I just interject one thing? It sounds like you're giving Donald Trump credit, actually, for the American Rescue Plan for absorbing the unemployment.
The CARES Act happened under Trump. The American Rescue Plan happened under Biden. Both of them were good.
But it's so you're giving Trump credit because that absorbed a lot more employment.
I think he deserves credit for. I think he deserves credit for signing that at the time, and I think Biden deserves credit for signing the American Rescue Plan.
Well, to be clear, Styx, why are you not giving credit to Biden for the American Rescue Plan?
I don't think that either of them had any measurable impact at the time. I think that the jobs portion of Trump's bill kept the economy afloat during a period where it shouldn't have needed to be kept afloat, and I opposed the lockdownerism at that time and actually criticized Trump for his role in that, although it was mainly gubernatorial in nature. The states were the ones that were locking down. It wasn't at the federal level other than the travel ban. I'm just wondering, by God, I'm trying to wonder exactly what I'm supposed to give Biden credit for, actually.
Well, I want to also put out something. You said that there's record number of people holding multiple jobs. That's actually not true. The percentage of people.
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I said that a large proportion of the new jobs being created, when you see the jobs data, we created 300,000 jobs this month or something. A large number of those are part-time positions, and they're from people that already have jobs. And we know this because we can look at the unemployment statistic. Right. If unemployment rises by 0.1, but you created a shit ton of jobs, then obviously people are taking out second jobs. There's no other way to describe it.
There's also the population is rising. And what we're seeing, the best metric to look at unemployment is labor force participation rate, because it's like of the population, how many people have
Which is
jobs.
also relatively low under Joe Biden.
And the prime age labor force participation rate, when you're looking at 25 to 54, which is the main thing people look at, because that's actually working age, is the lowest it has been since like 2001. It is very, very low. We did see during the pandemic a lot of seniors left the workforce and retired, and a lot of those folks haven't come back, although some have.
That's true.
But like in terms of people 25 to 54, like the percentage of those people who have jobs and full-time jobs, not part-time jobs, is very, very high.
And that's actually a good thing. The problem is that a lot of them are taking out the second part-time job, and that's where a lot of that job growth is coming in. They're taking those out to buy groceries, and if they can't find that second side hustle, they're taking out credit card debt. That normally, when credit card debt normally begins to skyrocket when the economy is really good and consumer confidence is high, because people say, well, I've got a thing going. It's morning in America again. I'm going to take out a credit card and buy the new dishwasher. I'll take out a credit card and I'll buy the new dryer or something like that. Right now, that's not what we're seeing. We're seeing people taking out credit card debt literally to buy groceries. I've had people message me about exactly that.
I mean, that is definitely happening. Well, you have to, as always,
How's that a Biden accomplishment?
Well, I don't want to pretend here and say that people aren't struggling. Of course, people are struggling.
There you go.
I never want to dismiss or diminish anybody. But what we're talking about is like, what has a person done as president to make things better rather than worse? If you're measured for...
Well, then name something. So far, I haven't heard anything.
If your measure for a good president is that nobody has ever struggled ever, then no president has ever been.
No. That's perfectly fine. Some people always struggle. I already have. But when everyone is struggling, like under Joe Biden, I would say that's an unqualified failure.
The amount of people are making, like in real terms, like when you're talking about extra wages, taking into account inflation, real wage growth has been grown faster than it has been in decades.
I'm glad that people that make $500,000 a year are doing so well.
Why I said earlier that actually the incomes are rising fastest for the people in the bottom 25%. You're actually saying that like lower class.
It's wonderful that the poor are a little bit less poor.
Are making more. It's not just the poor, it's the working class, the middle class. Like those folks are making more money now than they have been.
No, they're not.
When you're taking into account higher
No, they're not.
prices.
Wait.
No, they're not.
How do we find that out? Armand, you're saying one thing, Styx, you're saying another. Armand, where are you getting your data from? And
Post
Styx,
the goddamn stats, dude.
Sure.
All right, and while Armand is posting it, I want to remind everybody, make sure to like, subscribe, and so on and so forth. And I do want to move on to the next one while these stats are being found over here. And maybe we can even start with Styx's first and get your opinion on this. Passage of the IRA, which is the biggest climate bill in U.S. history and has already led to an explosion in clean energy manufacturing. So, Armand, right now you're looking at the statistics for the employment. Styx, I don't know if you want to comment on the IRA.
With regards to green energy, that's basically just a bunch of cash to China. All that means is that we get more Chinese lithium. We lease out more land that could be fallow. You could grow trees there and stuff for solar farms for the Chinese to develop when you could be putting it up on the sides of buildings. I support solar energy development. I think it's a great idea. I just think that it should be on existing structures. And I don't know why we're investing in solar fields when we could do that. Invest in individuals and communities. That's perfectly fine. I don't see it as a win to gobble up 1 million acres of land, which would have, turtles on it or something like that, like at the Bundy Ranch that they tried to confiscate there. And then the Bundys stood against them and got found not guilty of all crimes. And what did they do with that? The environmental court came in and said that there was an endangered tortoise that was living there. And then afterwards, they turned it into a Chinese solar farm, actually.
So, Armand, we can circle back Jen Psaki style to these stats when you're looking them up.
Don't you be circling back, Lev. God damn.
But I do want to move on to the climate question right now. So would you have any response to what Styx just said?
Sure.
Yes.
I mean, I think it's a basic misunderstanding of how the IRA works. If anything, actually, one of the reasons like Joe Manchin, who is like not a lover of clean energy by any means, like a big advocate for it, is because he understood that in order to compete with China, the United States needs to take a leadership role in building clean energy. The IRA specifically has tons of requirements that say that you have to use like resources and inputs and investments made in the United States. There's a reason, for example, why we had 27% increase under Biden of manufacturing spending, which is something that Trump kept saying he was going to do. It didn't happen. The reason it's happening in the United States now is because of the IRA. You're seeing, for example, like Japan, there's this controversy because Japan's trying to buy U.S. steel. It's like, why are they buying U.S. steel? Because the only reason they'd be eligible for those tax credits is if they're made by American workers, made in the United States. They're bringing in tons and tons of investment for it. We've seen battery factories going up around the United States. We've seen, for example, in California, there's a recent discovery of like a huge lithium deposit. The only reason
that was Idaho, I believe, actually.
Though there was one in the Idaho too, but there's also one in this Salton Sea in California or something like that.
That's good.
And there's like one that processing plant they're setting up in like the Nevada border. It's specifically because the IRA has like percentage, like first year like 25%, then goes up to 50, but it's like requirements for sourcing based in the United States, and it's bringing back a lot of manufacturing that was previously overseas in the United States. And the truth is, like, the rest, China's already producing tons and tons of solar panels. Africa's buying it. Europe is buying it. Like, we can either sit back and pretend like the clean energy revolution is not happening, or we can try to compete and be a leader in it. And that's what the IRA's done. In terms of land use, yeah, I think like one of the downsides of solar energy is that it does require a lot more land. However, it is largely not being like, if anything, I would say, frankly, like one thing that's getting in the way of the clean energy sort of like revolution is that we have very onerous rules and environmental rules around building and approving it that take forever. One of the good things of that is that it's like primarily, former industrial land or like agricultural land that wasn't being used for a long time. It's not like natural environments or anything like that, because there's very robust legal infrastructure around that. And it's a little weird, I guess. It's like contradictory because you're like, I think it's bad to protect the turtles, but also it's bad to use this land for solar. It's like, I'm a little lost as to...
No, I just think that it should be built on existing structures. By the way, I looked through this link that you posted from Marketplace. And what I would say in response is, yes, people making a very small amount of money, if their wages increase by a larger percentile, yes, they're going to see the largest growth based on their initial wage. That doesn't have anything to do with purchasing power. This article does not make it clear that they're even referring to purchasing power. It's talking about the fact that this is surprising because we actually saw jobs at the bottom fall the most at the onset of the pandemic, said Andre Dube, an economics professor at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, who co-authored the paper. Young people with no college degree who are working in those jobs in restaurants and hospitality have gotten the biggest pay increases in the last 3 years, he said. But you're not adjusting for whether it's a ratio or an absolute number. So if I'm making $15 an hour and I start making $20 an hour, that's a pretty good pay increase. Yeah, that's great. Meanwhile, someone who's making $1,000 an hour starts making $1,100 an hour. Adjusted, if you're looking at the ratio, they got less of a pay increase. This does not even fix for whether it's a rational number or not. It's completely useless. Yeah, what you're talking about is the people at the bottom who already were making almost nothing, not even starvation wages, had the largest pay increase, but it doesn't even talk about whether it's an absolute number or not. Lies, damn lies, and statistics. That's all we get.
That's not what the paper says. The paper says that it's adjusted for inflation, which means it's not just...
That's irrelevant. No, that part is irrelevant.
It means they're making more money than they were before, and they're making it faster rates than they were before. Like
I would seriously question whether that's a peer-reviewed paper.
I mean,
you do your own grocery shopping. Don't have cognitive dissonance. It's okay to acknowledge the fact that Bidenflation exists and that things cost a shit ton more than they did a few years ago. You can still think that Biden is a good dude and love him and want to vote for him and everything else, while admitting to what everyone else already knows.
I know the prices have gone higher. Nobody is denying the prices have gone higher, but the truth is that people are making more money now, even with
Yeah, of course, because it's inflated. They have to make more.
No, but they're making more money after you account for inflation. This is 100% is peer-reviewed paper. This is like Dubé is like one of the most, frankly, best economists in the profession. And every
so is Paul Krugman, supposedly.
Yeah.
You'll excuse me if I
there
don't
are
take
not
them
right-wing
seriously.
economists who are arguing your direction, by the way. This is like not a matter of contention or dispute that like wages are rising faster than inflation in particular. Like in the last, I would say, year after the Fed started raising rates,
the problem is that you have people that are making a really large amount of money and people that are making a little amount of money. And so, yeah, if people in the upper middle class and above are doing well.
But you keep saying that, but that's actually not true. Like the difference between this economy and the Trump economy, and the economy, frankly,
is that the Trump economy works.
Well, you got to let him finish.
The people making the most money and whose growth was happening the fastest were the richest people. That has changed. Like,
no, it hasn't.
Changed. And the proof for that is that income inequality is declining for the first time in decades.
Okay, income and wealth are not the same thing, and the super rich, they're not measured in their income. They're measured in their assets. They're measured in their assets.
So under Trump, wealth inequality skyrocketed.
Trust me, the rich love the inflation rate because their yachts become worth exactly the amount of the inflation.
What?
Wait, Armand, do you agree or disagree?
No. Let me try to explain. There's a difference between the amount of money you have. Like, for instance, let's see. I have so much about $100 in my wallet. That $100 buys a certain number of candy bars. 10 years from now, who knows how many candy bars it'll buy? But if I roll that over into a tangible asset, something of numismatic value, a physical object, so it doesn't matter what it is, a bar of gold, a yacht, a car, it doesn't matter. If inflation happens, then that price tends to inflate as well. That's the difference. Wealth versus the amount of money you have. And so what you're talking about is a bunch of rich people that are doing very, very well, and the poor getting peanuts. Yeah, okay, the wages are outpacing the inflation, finally. But the problem is that for about 2 years that didn't. They lost wealth for 2 years.
One, like the wealthiest people in the United States have seen like wealth inequality has started to decline under Biden. It increased under Trump because he gave a massive tax cut. Secondly,
I loved his tax cut.
True that rich people really, really hated Biden, or sorry, really loved inflation and like wanted to keep Biden. It wouldn't be the case that the Davos stat and Jamie Dimon and all the billionaires are coming out trying to get Trump reelected.
They're not.
Like, yes, they are.
No, bullshit. They're either supporting Biden or Nikki Haley right now.
Wait, but didn't Jamie Dimon...
Trump's campaign is half broke.
No, but Styx, didn't Jamie Dimon say something positive about Trump recently? I'm going to look it up.
Jamie Dimon specifically came out at Davos and was like, oh, Trump's right on immigration, all this stuff, which he doesn't believe.
Well, he is right on immigration. I would agree with him.
Yeah, but Jamie Dimon doesn't give a shit about that. He said the opposite.
Okay, you're naming one person. Who did the Koch brothers back? It was Nikki Haley.
Yeah, are the Koch brothers going to give to Biden? No, they actually
probably will.
Nikki Haley. They've never done that, and they never will. They don't give.
They would back Biden probably before they'll back Trump.
They just cut off Nikki Haley, and they're going to support Trump in 2024. Like,
well, I mean, I appreciate their support, but it'll be definitely they didn't do that on the front end, did they?
Well, just so we understand each other, then, Armand, are you agreeing or disagreeing with Styx about wages versus assets, as far as the rich people being okay?
Well, frankly, he's very wrong, because like what happened under the Trump administration is because of the massive Trump tax cuts, which went overwhelmingly for the richest people and more corporations, which is true. This is just math. You can look at it. Like the vast majority of that money went to incredibly rich people. People make billions of dollars.
Yes, because they pay more taxes.
Corporations. Yeah, but also disproportionately. And those people, by the way, in the United States, those people pay already way less taxes than they do around the rest of the world. And so, yeah, their assets went up a lot because they were taxed a lot less. And so if you're talking about like wealth inequality, it is dramatically changed under Biden. And if your argument is that like what's important is that like rich people don't inflate away, get a bunch of money through like Biden inflation or whatever, like the metric you're looking at is like, are the poor doing better or are the rich doing better? Is unambiguously better off under Biden.
Quick question, Armand.
No, absolutely, completely, totally wrong.
Wait,
as I can attest to by talking to people on a daily basis. You know, most people buy their own groceries when they go to the grocery store, and then they look at the amount of money in their wallet. The Biden economy, the Bidenomics lie, the concept that the Biden economy is somehow magically better, it falls completely flat because people can see literally at least once a week that that's not the case. I see it all the time. Dude, I admit, I'm in the upper middle class. I make 6 figures. When I go to the grocery store, I get sticker shock. And I shouldn't be getting sticker shock. Like, I thought I was sort of making it. And my income keeps growing year after year, but I'm not making any fucking headway. I'm probably making technically less now than I was last year simply because of Bidenflation.
I got a question for Armand.
This should not be happening.
I got a question for Armand. When it comes to what you consider to be rich people, are we talking about people who have like private helicopters and go to like the Eyes Wide Shut parties, or are we talking about people who are earning, let's say, $500K, maybe like $1 million, people who are more of like the upper middle class, you could say, or slightly richer, but people who like own their businesses and are a very integral part of the whole way the system works? Because there's like super rich people that have a whole team of lawyers that into figuring out loopholes, and then there's like a much larger percentage of those rich people who I think are much more integral to this whole thing working. What happened to those rich people when it came to Biden versus Trump?
I mean, I hesitate to say that somebody making $500,000 a year is not rich. That puts you in like easily the top 0.5% of earners in America. Higher than that, like I think people sometimes get a really distorted image of like how much people make. The median income in America is like I think 50K or something. But under Trump, the extremely rich people did very well. But also under Trump, car dealership owners, dentists, people who were making $1 million a year also did well. And
so did everyone else.
Who did really poorly are the working folks, whose wages were not keeping up, who are now getting high. There are more of them working. They are making more money. They are not dying from a pandemic. Their jobs are more likely to be getting ready for the jobs of the future of cleaner energy that's not going to kill them or poison them. Across all of those spectrums, their lives are better. And you can keep denying and keep lying about it, but it's not true. Over about 1 million people died under Trump's mismanagement during the pandemic.
More people have died under Joe Biden, by the way. It's just that they don't have a news ticker about it anymore.
But if
he surpassed that total long ago.
But if we're talking about those rich people, the ones who don't have the helicopters, how are they faring in general in the current Biden administration as opposed to the Trump administration as far as taxes go?
They're doing fine because they're wealthy. So, but for those of us that are not at least working rich, things were definitely better under Donald Trump. Absolutely, unequivocally. And I speak for 99% of the population when I say that things were better under Trump economically.
If you spoke,
but what I'm wondering,
population, this wouldn't be a debate, right? There wouldn't be.
Well, there is no debate because there's no Biden accomplishments to debate. This is for entertainment. What I'm wondering is that this debate was supposed to be about Biden's accomplishments. Mm-hmm. Can you list one? Because so far they're all partisan. You're talking about the economy and
to put food on the table, get people into jobs, get more access to healthcare.
No. I agree with you. That's why I'm going to vote for Trump. I agree with you. That's why I'm going to vote for Trump.
One thing, for example, that Donald Trump is explicitly already trying to do is his staffers are working on policies to reduce Medicaid access. They want to specifically they use Trump project
every 4 goddamn years.
Medicaid. It's on the their proposals. They're not hiding it.
Every 4 years.
Medicaid.
Dude, I am. Can I please, just a second? Okay.
You keep cutting me out.
Okay.
part of what happened in the American Rescue Plan that I didn't even get to was the passage of enhanced subsidies for Obamacare. And what ended up happening through that is a huge reduction in the amount of people who are uninsured. So it actually went from a beginning of the Biden administration around like 8 or 9%, which has hovered since like the Biden administration. Now it's down to like 6 or 7%. That is millions of people who didn't have healthcare access before, who now do have healthcare access. And Project 2025, which is again Trump's explicit public plan, his staff, his people are like, here's what we want to do, here's what we're going to do. For Medicaid, they have plans explicitly that would reduce access for millions of people and keep millions of people off those rolls. Like, it's not scaremongering, it's like, I'm quoting them.
What I would say is, I would say that literally every 4 years, that becomes an issue. They're going to take your Medicare, they're going to take your Social Security. We've heard it before. All of it is nothing but bluster. It's nothing but nonsense.
To do it when he was president last time. Remember the famous McCain like vote down with the thumb? Like they tried to pass a law that would massively cut Medicaid. It would massively kick people off insurance rolls, and it failed. But there was like a very public big attempt to do it, like to the point where like that was McCain's.
Donald Trump is not coming for your grandparents' Medicaid. Don't worry about that.
He really did it.
Well, no, Styx, to be fair, what Armand is talking about, is that not legit? That he tried doing it once? Like, what was going on there?
Not completely, no.
So what was going on there? Was that just like a wrestling thing, just like pretending to get rid of Medicare?
It's Donald Trump doing his normal bullshit thing. He's a politician.
So what you're saying is that it was just a way to wrestle with Congress I know I keep using wrestling references here, but you know what I mean. It was like a way for him to say something outrageous so that Congress would then like do something maybe less outrageous than that. So he just like
he did the same on the ACA.
Yeah, they tried to repeal it. There was a bill. There was like an actual bill.
And did it get repealed? And did it get repealed despite the fact that they had the votes? Yeah, they had the votes. They could have repealed it. It didn't get repealed.
Literally, one of the last things that John McCain did before he died was pissing off Trump by voting against.
Goddamn fucking John McCain. I hate him. I'm glad he's dead.
Him for doing the thing. Like, so a second ago, you were saying.
No, I hate him for trying to bomb third world countries. Actually,
I did too. But like,
there we go.
All right, so here are two final points over here. Here's two final points, so I'll just say both of them, and we'll decide which one to go for. How are you doing on time, by the way, Styx and Armand?
Good, about 10 minutes.
Oh, boy, here we go. Okay, so...
I want to talk about Afghanistan. I saw the Afghanistan withdrawal explicitly mentioned.
Yes, so there's okay, so number 4, the appointment of strong NLRB members protecting unions and boosting wages, and number 5, ending the war in Afghanistan. So
with regards to unions, that's just going to be totally partisan because I think unions are fine, but they should be voluntary. I don't have a problem with them. With the withdrawal for Afghanistan, are you attempting to say that the withdrawal from Afghanistan is a win for Joe Biden?
Many presidents over many years said that they would withdraw from Afghanistan, including Trump, and they kept kicking the can down the road. They kept saying, "Oh, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it." And all of them knew that there'd be a huge political hit from doing it because there's no way to withdraw from that situation without chaos, without bad headlines, without, frankly, the military-industrial complex trying to punish you politically for it. Joe Biden's the one who did it. It wasn't ideal by any means. There's a lot of chaos around it. One of the things that they, frankly, underprepared for was like how badly the Afghan army would fall apart. But I think it's really perverse that like Biden gets like attacked for the fact that this Afghan army like fell apart, but none of the people before him who kept papering over the fact that this military existed only on paper, wasn't a real fighting institution, get any like negatives for that. And Trump, conveniently wanted to get all the credit for being, I'm big anti-war, I'm going to end it, and then kept delaying and kicked the can down the road so somebody else had to actually do it and take the hit. It was one of the bravest things like a politician has done in my like lived experience is actually try to end a war and take the political penalty for doing it.
You realize that Joe Biden's actually the one that kicked the date down the road, right? He's the one that delayed it, right?
Joe Biden was, if anything, when he was a vice president under Obama, was the one trying to advocate for like a less like
Well, he didn't succeed. The final deal was between Trump and the Taliban. And it would have worked if they hadn't kicked the can down the road under Joe Biden. And I'm not sure exactly why you're saying that Joe Biden's not the one that did that.
Because the withdrawal was supposed
Joe
to
Biden delayed it
under Trump. He delayed it multiple times.
Then he finalized the agreement. He had a set in stone date, and Joe Biden was the one that decided to push it further. So if you're talking about kicking the can down the road, that was Joe Biden.
He set the stone date after he was out of office. Like,
no, he said it while he was in office, and then he didn't get reselected by the oligarchy.
He'd said multiple final dates before and kept pushing them off because he's a coward.
Why is it that when Trump did that, supposedly, the Taliban never attacked Kabul, but as soon as Joe Biden was in there, they did. It's because he's weak.
Until the United States withdrew. They don't want to mess up. They knew that if they attacked while there's a negotiation or withdrawal, then the United States would get pulled back in. And
I'll tell you exactly what happened.
Wanted the United States to leave.
I'll tell you exactly what happened. Pashtun culture is very interesting, and most Westerners don't know this. When you make an agreement in most of the world, you abide by it, or at the very least, you get a limb chopped off. And if the warlord is not feeling great that day, you go missing. What happened is that Donald Trump struck a deal. It would have held. It would have worked. When Joe Biden came in and he pushed the date back, what he did was he showed all the tribal warlords that otherwise probably would not have joined with the Taliban in their assault. He convinced them the United States is full of shit. They're going to keep bouncing this forever.
Why is that not true for the multiple times Trump pushed back withdrawal? He didn't do so once.
The negotiations were ongoing, but no finalized
deal. No. There were multiple. Oh, nope. So
there were negotiations.
The Trump curve always works, right? Like, he gets credit for the things that would have happened great, but not get blamed for the things that didn't.
If Donald Trump had been reelected and pushed back the date unilaterally, and Kabul had been taken by the Taliban, I'd be the first person to criticize him.
We had unicorns emerging from the ether, and every puppy.
Here we go. We're going off into La La Land now.
What happened to Mexico paying for the wall? What happened to
I have criticized Trump. I have criticized Trump plenty of times, but now you're going off into La La Land. Just study Pashtun culture.
All right, we do have a couple of super chats over here.
Pashtun culture applied to Joe Biden, but not to Trump.
Because it's in Afghanistan.
He had multiple deals that were like, we're going to withdraw. No, we're going to withdraw. No, we're going to withdraw.
There was never any final binding agreement that was trilaterally agreed upon between the United States, the Taliban, and various tribal forces.
All right.
And Joe Biden fucked it up.
Before we go,
as with everything.
Come on, man. Before we go, we got to go to Super Chats over here. So we have President Irina Vlad something or other. It's not showing the full name here.
Putina.
But thank you very much, Putina. Under Obama, I was paying $4 a gallon while making maybe $30K a year. Under Trump, I was paying less than $2 a gallon while making $90K a year. Under Biden, I'm paying $3 to $4 a gallon while making the same $90K a year. Any comments, guys?
It's Biden inflation.
The only time we had $2 an hour, or $2 a gallon gasoline was during the pandemic when nobody was driving. It's really strange how people keep giving credit to Trump for that, when like the only time gas prices were that low was because we had a pandemic. Like, the economy fell apart, nobody was driving, nobody was leaving their house, so gas prices went down. Like, you can make arguments about other things, but the gas price thing is very strange because it's specifically like the only time that $2 happened was like the worst parts of the pandemic. Oil production is at record highs under Biden. It's much higher than it was under Trump.
Not if you adjust for population growth, though.
It is.
We have another one.
We're not a net exporter.
We have another.
We were a net exporter under Donald Trump.
We are a net exporter of natural gas and fossil fuels. It's true.
Not of gasoline.
We are the biggest exporter in the world.
That's wonderful. We should drill, baby, drill.
Because we don't refine.
I'm glad that you agree with drill, baby, drill, and that's a good thing, though. It's good to find a liberal who believes in that.
I think in the long run, we want to transition to clean energy, but right now we don't want to like bankrupt people.
There's nothing cleaner than natural gas and nuclear.
Nuclear is awesome. I like 100% support nuclear. I think it's great.
I think they're all great.
Difficult to get right because it's really expensive, but
we need to create more CO2 so the plants grow bigger too. So I support SUV, buying as well.
I mean, that is an interesting thing because Styx, you were in horticulture, you went to college for that.
Yep.
Would you say that a lot of the arguments that come from people who are, concerned about the climate changing and all of that wouldn't really make sense when it comes to?
I support the use of solar energy for pragmatic purposes. I simply ask people to mount it on their homes' roofs instead of bulldozing forests to put them up and stuff like that. Windmills are fine, especially in the Netherlands, by the way.
I mean, rooftop solar is useful and helpful, but the issue with doing purely rooftop solar is because it's very expensive in terms of unit costs.
Subsidize that instead of making solar fields.
We are subsidizing it, but also the basic problem with solar is distribution, right? And so there are a lot of places that are really sunny at some points, a lot of places that are not. It's really difficult to do that with individual rooftop solar.
The Europeans don't seem to have a problem with that. Every other home in the Netherlands seems to have it.
They have a lot of that, but they also do tons of utility scale solar. It's something they need both of. You're not going to solve the energy crisis with just one technology. You need nuclear, you need solar, you need geothermal, you need wind.
And you need lots of gasoline and natural gas. You're never going to get free.
You're going to transition away from that eventually because that.
No, you won't.
And it's also bad for health. Even if you don't believe in climate change, gasoline emissions are really bad for breathing, for brain development, all of that stuff.
No, they're not. They're great. Gasoline, when you smell that exhaust, it smells good.
One of the best predictors for how poorly kids are going to do in school is if they grow up near a freeway or near an area of high particulate emissions.
That's because those are lower class areas, and so there tends to be that has to do with nutrition.
Comparable income levels. No, it's those are all important factors, but when you do control for all of those, it's just common sense. It's breathing in fumes.
Sounds like that study back in the day that said that coffee would cause strokes, and then they didn't fix the study for tobacco smoking because it was correlated with drinking coffee.
Well, you know what's not going to cause any strokes? Biltong. If you go to Biltong USA, if you go to biltongusa.com and enter code BTR, you are going to get free shipping on delicious and nutritious biltong. It's a great source of protein, especially if you guys go for the bison biltong. That's my favorite one, personally speaking. Biltong. So yeah, biltongusa.com.
We're gonna get Armand some fucking biltong.
Yeah, we're gonna.
What is it?
It's a really great meat. It's kind of like jerky, but 10 times better. You've got to try it.
Definitely.
And if you like the spices, if you like the spices, they have ghost pepper, which is my favorite. Ooh. Recently, I tried Reaper pepper. I'm never trying it again. Just saying.
A little much.
Yeah, it was good. It was good on the way up, but afterwards, I was not able to get a good night's sleep. Let's just put it that way. But anyway, we gotta finish up with these super chats, people. So here we go. Okay. Cindy Derelict 1999. Styx is slaying this. Polite clanker. Clank, 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 clank. Armed with a ton of spoons, by the way. Can we say the quiet part out loud? Psst. Biden isn't the one making decisions. He's just the corpse sitting on the White House Obama's third term. I don't know, Armand, is that fair or not fair, as far as a Weekend in Bernie's mode?
I think if the Biden people were running the campaign, if the Obama people were running the campaign, it would be doing a lot. They had better.
We agree.
Biden on policy more, but I think Obama had better political instincts.
Interesting. So, one last one over here from Putina. Stop lying. There's a difference between withdrawing on a plan and delaying for months before pulling out to leave hundreds of people and billions of equipment purely for September 11th PR stunt. Any thoughts?
True.
I don't think that one thing that was a mistake is we underestimated how badly the Afghan army would fall apart. And so we didn't pull everything out because the idea was they're supposed to still defend themselves. They didn't. And so more equipment ended up falling in the wrong hands than we wanted, which was a mistake. But I don't think it's a 9/11 stunt.
That's not actually true. Biden was talking to the president of Afghanistan before the withdrawal, begging him to tell people that it was going to be okay while openly acknowledging the fact that it wasn't going to be and that they were badly coordinated and in trouble.
they were very much. I mean, they were trying not to have it fall to the Taliban. Like that was the attempt. Our intelligence was wrong, and like the Afghan army melted away. But that also reflects the decades of failure of U.S. policy to build up the Afghan military and the continued idea that we'd stay there forever. And so,
oh no, we needed to withdraw, and it probably would have fallen eventually anyway. It shouldn't have been so catastrophic. We could have at least gotten our shit out.
All right, 2 final super chats. Please send no more super chats. This is it. This is the end over here. Yeah. First one over here from Dr. Pib. 989. Trump's plan kept us in Bagram. Thanks to Biden, do you know who is in Bagram now? The Chinese military, and that makes it impossible to go back in. Any thoughts on that before final one here from Uncle Sam?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't want to go back in, so.
All right, that's what he said. Uncle Sam, 999. Easy equation. If gas doubled, but your wage salary hasn't, then you are in the red. Apply that to all goods. Gas here, 125. Week of Biden's inauguration, 289. Today when I filled up.
I don't understand why Biden gets credit for Trump gets credit for the pandemic causing gas to be cheap, like that.
So you give him blame for the rise of unemployment, but you won't give him credit for the low gas prices.
I think I gave him credit for reducing unemployment with the CARES Act. I just think Biden did more of it through the American Rescue Plan because it was bigger.
Well, then we're at a disagreement on that one.
I'm giving Trump more credit than you are, frankly, on that.
All right, guys. Well, listen, I just want to say major thanks to Armand. Listen, I know that Styx brings the clankers over, and it's very hectic, but I definitely appreciate you being here, Armand. You're a really cool dude. Regardless of any disagreements, I think that the fact that you come here and are able to talk with Styx, that this is very important. You're a solid ass dude. That's what I've been seeing on Twitter, and we need more solid ass dudes like you out there in the world, man.
Yeah, this was fun. Thanks, Styx, for having the conversation.
Any final things?
Yeah, it was nice. It was nice talking to you.
Any final things to plug, by the way, Armand? Anything you want to promote?
Follow me on Twitter at Armand Domalewski.
There we go. And Styx, anything you want to promote?
I'm Styx Hexenhammer 666. Just Google it.
All right, and you could follow me on Twitter at Lev Po. Oh, and also the Discord server. If you go into the description of this video, you're going to see the Break the Rules Discord server. Highly recommend for you to join it. I don't know where Armand went right now, but anyway, follow on Discord and also patreon.com/breaktherules. Listen, I got a ton of new patrons who recently came in because of the Jason Giorgiani Q&A. We talk about the secrets of Stanley Kubrick. We talk about all this esoteric stuff, Prometheus, Atlas, Dionysus, Apollo. He is the most knowledgeable philosophical person you're ever going to meet. Styx, we definitely have to do a sit-down with Jason Giorgiani, preferably live in Manhattan, if we could manage that. Fingers crossed, but that's
I'll take one for the team and come to New York City at some point.
There we go.
It takes me a lot to leave the county because this is my happy zone. So.
No, I get it. There we go. We're doing everybody. So patreon.com/breaktherules. I send a link in the chat. It's in the description. Become a patron today. You are not going to regret it. Special streams, VIP NYC events as well. So I'm going to be throwing dinners in New York City, and you guys can join me and some of the guests. Wink, 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 nudge, nudge. And that's it. Thank you guys so much. Be sure to like, subscribe, click that bell. The bell is very, very important. Thank you so much for everybody for being here. Until next time. Good night, everybody.
I'm not a crook.